Hello, what's up everybody? Welcome back to our channel. We thought we would sit down for a few minutes and share some ways to maintain your healthy lifestyle habits throughout the holiday season and give you some tips on how to navigate your thought processes around your nutrition and your eating habits during this time.
Yeah, just because it's the holiday season doesn't mean you have to throw all your goals out the window.
Exactly, and it doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself either. Tip number one is to approach these days like you would a normal day of eating. So just because you may have, a bigger breakfast, a bigger lunch, or a bigger dinner planned for, the specific holiday day, doesn't mean you have to totally ignore what you would normally do on a daily basis. So, maybe you have a big dinner planned with family. That's okay. You don't have to fast until that meal. Maybe you just adjust some of your meals before that bigger meal happens. So for example, let's say you have a big dinner planned with family at 5 or 6 p.m. You wake up and you go to make breakfast. You're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I not eat? Do I eat my normal amount of food? Do I eat more than normal so I'm not as hungry at that dinner time? Or what do I do? Well, here are suggestions. I would maybe recommend, making that first meal a little bit smaller than normal, but making sure your protein intake is high during that meal. So protein increases satiety, so that means it increases your sensation of fullness. So it will keep you full a little bit longer throughout the day, and it will hold you over until maybe that bigger meal later on. Another reason why we want to increase protein intake over carbs and fat is that typically those larger meals are going to be a little bit higher in carbs and fat than you would normally intake at that, regular time during a normal day of eating. So protein's gonna, help spike that satiety, and, we want protein intake to be high anyway because it helps maintain and increase muscle protein synthesis throughout the day as well.
And kind of going off of the reasons not to fast is that it basically sets you up for failure for the day. So if you fast, so you're not eating anything at all, not only are you starving your body, you're basically setting yourself up to be extremely hungry when you get to those unhealthy or potentially unhealthy holiday meals to where you're going to binge. So you want to try to go into a dinner or lunch or whatever you have with some good nutrition.
Going into that meal, typically you want your level of hunger to be like it normally would going into any other dinner on any, normal day of eating. Definitely important to give your body the nutrition that it needs even before that meal, and then giving your body what it needs during that bigger meal too. And, that may mean including foods that you typically wouldn't eat on a normal day. That's okay. Tip number two is to get a workout in the morning or the afternoon or whenever you can fit it in, if you can fit it in. If you're feeling good, if your body's feeling good, if your mind is feeling good, move your body. Moving your body is going to increase your energy expenditure. It's going to increase, your overall energy, so it's going to make you feel more alive and awake.
It's going to boost your mood.
Right, it's definitely going to boost your mood, and also, it can increase your hunger as well. So, that can help when you're planning on eating a little bit more than you normally would in a day. Getting that workout in, get your body moving, gets your blood flowing, gets your heart pumping, gets your muscles pumping, that kind of thing. So that will all help you feel a little bit better throughout the day as well. And if you're not feeling a workout that day, that's okay too. You don't have to work out. That's a decision that you and only you and your body and your mind can make. And if it doesn't feel right for you on that day, then don't do it. If it's gonna stress you out on that day, then don't do it. And just know that just because you didn't get a workout in that day or didn't move your body as much as you normally do, then that doesn't mean that you can't eat a little bit more or indulge a little bit more than you normally would. So just keep that in mind too, but movement overall is always gonna be a great thing, but we certainly don't want you to feel guilty and have that consume your mind the entire day when you're trying to enjoy time with your family, enjoy food with your family that you don't always get to eat every day of the year. And building off of that, tip number 3 is to not feel like you have to burn off every single calorie that you've eaten that day. That is not something that we would ever recommend or something that we would ever want anybody to feel like they have to do. Remember that, the season doesn't come around very often, and Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, whatever holiday day it is, it's only one day of the month typically, and there are not a lot of holidays throughout the year, so all of those holidays add up to a very small percentage of your life. Your body is very smart. Just because you ate a little bit more than you normally do doesn't mean that you are going to gain 5 pounds of fat overnight. It knows how to regulate itself. It just knows so many things, and you just have to trust that your body is going to do what is right for you, as long as you are being mindful and you're not going overboard. Which brings us to tip number 4, practice mindfulness. So mindfulness is basically just being aware of how you are feeling, what you are doing in a specific moment in time. So I like to think of it as being in the present moment and not thinking so much about the future, not thinking so much about the past, just being right where you are currently and appreciating that moment and focusing on that moment. Practicing mindfulness, comes with being consciously aware of how you're feeling after you eat certain foods. Pay attention to your hunger cues, how full you're feeling, how hungry you may be, how satisfied you are after eating something. And just because something is there doesn't mean that you have to eat it. And that brings us into tip number 5, which just as much as it's okay to say yes, it's also okay to say no. So just because somebody offers you something doesn't mean that you have to say yes. I know that food is definitely, or can definitely be, somebody's way of showing people that they love them, and because of that, you can, or you may be asked every 5, 10, 15 minutes, hey, can I get you another piece of this? Are you sure you don't want any of that? Are you sure you don't want any of this? So just kind of, keep that in mind, that you can say no, and it's not going to be the end of the world. Ultimately you are in charge of your hunger cues, your fullness, and your satisfaction. Nobody else is. And tip number 6, which this was kind of implied throughout the other 5 tips, but don't set any food rules for yourself. A lot of times people can find themselves in that restricting, binging kind of cycle, which is never a fun place to be. So just make sure that you're not restricting any food groups, you're not restricting yourself from enjoying anything, and you're not eliminating any specific food from your diet, unless of course you have allergies or you have intolerances. Then that's probably not a good thing, because you're not gonna be feeling good after eating those anyway. But restricting yourself, just makes you think about that food that much more, and you're that much more likely to go on a food binge, which I'm guessing doesn't make you feel very good afterwards either, and then it can create all those feelings of guilt, and the cycle just begins again. So just go into the days around the day, not setting any food rules. You can have some ideas about, what you want and what you don't want to do ahead of time, but if those plans change, it's okay. Let them change. Okay, I've realized I've been the one talking almost the entire time, but that's because I've been through a lot of this stuff myself, with the, fear of eating different foods than I normally eat, the fear of eating more than I normally eat. I've been there, and trust me, those feelings are not worth it. It's not worth it to stress about these things. Colin has never experienced this, so it's easier for me to talk about it. I know it's easier said than done, but don't go into the day or into the days around the day in fear. You have to live in the moment. You have to enjoy the foods that you love with the people that you love without guilt tripping yourself. You know, we're all human. We're not going to be 100% perfect or on track all of the time. You know us. Our approach to eating is, you know, following that 80-20 lifestyle.
So 80-20 lifestyle basically meaning 80% of the things that we do with life, like with our food, is on track for our goals. And then the other 20% is more of like leniency, enjoying the foods that we don't normally get to eat during our diet, if you will, whether we're trying to lose weight or gain weight, whatever our goals are at the time. Typically we'll eat like whole, nutrient-dense foods, natural foods. That's part of that 80%. And then more of our artificial or processed foods, usually the good foods, fast foods that you don't really want to put into your body, that's usually that 20%.
And by good, I think he means bad. But you guys get it. That's another thing too, along with the food rules, don't label foods as good and bad. You know, we put quotation marks around them because we're not labeling them. You know, if you get into that labeling mindset too, that can be a little bit dangerous. Obviously, there are foods that are healthier than others. There are foods that are unhealthier than others. And I think, you know, most of us know what those foods are and which category they fall into. But just because you eat those unhealthier foods doesn't make them bad, you know?
Just makes them part of your lifestyle.
Right.
If they make you happy, make it part of that 20%.
Right. Yep. Just don't make it part of the 80%. It can be part of that 20%. We're all about
balance.
Balance, yes, and food freedom. We don't restrict ourselves. We don't eliminate any food groups unless, of course, we have allergies or intolerances, and we know they don't make us feel good after eating them. But for the most part, you know, we eat what we want, and most of the time what we want is, you know, are foods that are part of that 80%, because that's what makes us feel the best, that's what makes us feel good, and gives us the most energy, and yada 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 yada. We could go on and on and on. Just keep that in mind. I know I've said that a lot throughout this video, but it really is important to come into a place where you're not analyzing or freaking out about every little piece of food that you put into your mouth. And same goes for fitness too. Worrying about every single step or mile or calorie burned, that's not a good place to be either. So obviously we believe in doing what we can to become our healthiest selves and our best selves, but that kind of includes a little bit of everything. We hope that you guys got something out of this video. We hope that this helped you think about the holidays and the holiday season in a little more reasonable or rational manner if that's something that you've been struggling with.
And if you guys ever want to see a video kind of diving into nutrition a little bit more, whether it be around the holidays or just in general, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to do a video on that. So if that's something you guys would like, we'll definitely do it. Okay, well, that's gonna wrap up this 6 tips on how to navigate your nutrition and eating patterns during the holidays. Thank you guys again so much for watching. We've loved posting Vlogmas videos. It's so cool to see you guys interacting with us, and it's cool that we get to extend our reach as fitness professionals as well. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on if you never want to miss another video with myself, Katie.
And me, Colin.
Anyway, thank you guys again for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.